our clients' clientele, it's a weird space. So a lot of them are in a lot of trouble. A lot of it's very private, right? Very sensitive stuff. So they just kind of need that comfort and kind of going and getting all kinds of different tools. The more complicated you make it, the harder it is for them to succeed, right? So
yeah, and they won't want to use it.
No, oh yeah, nobody.
They'll reject it. Which, that's the last thing you want to happen, right? Where the client's like, oh my God, it's too complicated.
For sure. And I know one thing is, like, I think a lot of clients ask for PDFs, which I almost every time somebody creates a PDF at a Meal Garden, which happens thousands of times a day, I actually feel in my body, I'm like, oh, but I understand accessibility. Mm-hmm. So not everyone wants to use an app or a program. So we're really trying to ease the industry towards online, but making it easy for people to get those PDFs and use those PDFs you want, because you don't want to agitate people.
Right.
You don't unless, like, I think in our space, there's kind of required friction when you're doing a lot of change. Sometimes it is going to be uncomfortable, but let's make sure that's in places that are where it's necessary, and not make it hard through technology, right? Because like people don't come to a registered dietitian or a health coach for the technology. That's not what they're. It needs to be a complementary tool, like a sidekick. Like that's what we think Meal Garden is kind of a sidekick for a practitioner. Mm-hmm. And again, it just balances out. Like nutrition is your superpower, but it needs to take. It can't take up all your time. That just doesn't make sense.
Right. Tell us a little bit about, so basically, just to kind of recap, I'm hearing that there's a lot of opportunity to partner with Meal Garden in order to achieve multiple streams of income, right?
For 100%. It's absolutely 100% built in a way that, and again, this idea of the customer journey and where different people arrive is, for you, it's the best to start those conversations. So if you have some free programs, you have some free resources, and then maybe you have kind of a self-service opportunity, and then you really you can use that data to find those people and send those messages for those more powerful, more impactful, like I think signature programs, master classes, those kinds of things. Like I know Kiki uses the software exactly like that, right? She has a free membership site. She has some paid stuff mixed in there. And then for the people that are really active, she reaches out to them independently and says, hey, you should join my masterclass. And that's the way to do it, right? Like when you have a sea of people, how do you find those kind of people that are going to be the right conversations at the right time? And that's data, right? Analytics can help you to kind of understand that, right? So if you maybe you have a free membership site and you have 10 people that are really, really active, hey, maybe those are the people that you focus on, because they're most likely to be interested in moving up the ladder, and they probably are going to find the most value, right?
Right.
You could probably flip it too and see people that aren't active at all and reach out to them, and maybe you're going to learn something from that. Maybe there's something with your offering that you can change to make it more attractive for those people that aren't engaged. But analytics is, and I think you talk a lot about that, like data and analytics, like that's another thing that we really think a lot about, is giving you that information so that you can optimize and move your business in a direction that's going to go with the market and make it easy for you to I guess stop spinning your wheels. I think sometimes sales can feel like spinning your wheels, right?
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about what you call meal solutions, right? Mm-hmm. So how is that different as compared to meal plans? And what would be some examples of this in real life?
So meal solutions are really, like, meal solutions could include meal plans, but it's really, a meal solution is, there's two terms that I use: in real life and meeting someone where they eat, right? So a meal solution is, and I think we used this example once. I got actually a couple great examples. So for example, HEB, right, which is a large grocery chain out of in Texas, right? Huge, just a spectacular business, great people. And what they do is they actually have plans and collections, and they've actually incorporated a bunch of their different types of meals. So you can do a lot of personalization in Meal Garden, and they've actually tagged all their independent meals as, grab and go, pre-cooked, this kind of stuff. So when they're when their clients go into their meal garden, they're scheduling versus planning.
Yeah.
And they can kind of do it on the fly. So, some people will schedule on Sunday night or Monday morning. And they're like, you know what, I got soccer, so I'm going to go buy HEB, and I know that I can get this grab and go meal, and I know that it's on sale. So, hey, that's great. That's one way a solution works. So there's a woman named Angie in Toronto. She actually goes around to independent restaurants and does actually consulting work, right? So she healthifies and helps restaurants with their labeling and stuff. Those meals then go into Meal Garden, and then she can actually go out in her neighborhood and say, hey, like not everyone eats at home always, right?
Right.
So, hey, here, we've already actually got these meals from local restaurants in Meal Garden, and you can order them or you can see it ahead of time. So that's kind of another example of a meal solution, right?
So good.
There's so many of those. I know we have a bunch of chefs that work with the tool, and they actually do cooking classes with it. So they'll do a cooking class, they'll upload the video from the cooking class into Meal Garden, and also the recipes so people can go and try it out, right? That kind of stuff. So I think that's, in my mind, meal solutions. Some people want a collection. Some people want a safe environment where all the meals available are related and support their specific conditions or their specific goals. Some people are in a different position. They're like, hey, I just want a meal plan. Like, that's all I want. And that's fine, right? So a solution is really kind of looking at the person, the specific person you're talking to, and then making it easy for them to succeed, right? So simple things like, when you onboard a client, you can go into Meal Garden and add their family. So when they take a meal plan, it automatically scales. Like little things like that, like they just really reduce a lot of the friction around creating healthy eating. And not everybody likes to cook. Some people like to cook, but some people are like, I need things that are easy. So you go into Meal Garden, you say, all right, for the first 2 weeks, you're going to see recipes that can be done in 10 minutes with under 5 ingredients, right? So things like that. And even one of my other favorite examples is Diana out of South Florida, who had a client, a tech client, who every time at lunch they went for burritos, and they refused to not eat burrito. They're like, I have to do that's it. That's happening, right? So what she did is she went to the place, got a burrito, entered the burrito's makeup in Meal Garden as a pre-made meal, and then was able to sit with her client and say, okay, so this is the impact your burrito has. Hit the nutrition button. Here's a graph, your macros and all that stuff. And this is the impact your burrito has. So this is how you need to eat around the burrito, which is fine. Like, that's fine. It's okay. I mean, you just have to change eating habits around that. So that's okay, right? And you can kind of start. I think there's a whole bunch of other consulting that goes around, but that's kind of exciting stuff, right? So it's like taking meal planning from the computer, bringing it in real life, and then also, and in real life means integrating it with the way people move around the world, and then also meeting people where they eat, so that if people have are digging their heels in some places, you can back up and say, okay, well, what is it that you're eating? Well, let's put it in. We're going to automatically calculate all that nutritional information. And now we can compare it. You can say, hey, look, this is what this particular meal does to your body. And to offset that, you need to do these things, or, reduce. It's so funny how even just changing an ingredient can make such a huge impact. So moving from carb heavy to like, the mashed cauliflower or something like that, which, it doesn't seem like a huge deal, but it actually can, depending on the conditions or the goals you're aiming for, right?
Make a huge difference. Those small changes sometimes are the best.
Exactly. Yeah. Small changes for sure.
It's really working. It's looking at the person, like the big picture, not just here's your meal plan. Good luck.
Yeah, for sure. And it's making it easy for practitioners too. As I remember, I think it was the last time we talked.
Yeah.
You mentioned, which we did. I don't know, our conversation was all wibbly wobbly, right, with the technology. But you had mentioned that, and I thought it was a great conversation. You had mentioned that you weren't back when you were doing this, you weren't all that comfortable with recipes. Like when people ask you, you're like, I don't want to step out of my comfort zone, but I don't know how to help you with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It was, I felt like it was a deficit for sure. Cause it's just it wasn't my comfort area. And frankly, there weren't a lot of, there weren't options like this to really help me out. So yeah, I felt really, honestly, full transparency, I felt really uncomfortable with that culinary, like great at the science part, like more of a, I don't know, more of a diagnostician probably.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, you know, the clinical side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's what's going on, here's what you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of implementing, that's where I felt really like, ooh, there's a deficit here, right? So yeah, I really struggled with that.
Yeah, and I think that I think that a lot of people still. So first of all, I think that's great to share, and I think that a lot of folks out there, out of the hundreds of thousands or 100,000 practitioners, a lot are still in that space, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Being diagnostic and working on the science is like pretty meta too, right? That's pretty important, and I think that might be in a lot of situations. I'd rather have that skill than the other skill, right? But having a tool that you trust that has meals in it that are being created and cultivated by peers like yourself. So you can say, hey, I got a thing that I can say, okay, these are your conditions, these are your food sensitivities, away you go. And then you can use that as a tool for conversation building, for progress tracking, stuff like that. Just making it easier for folks like yourself to get in there and do that and not be intimidated by technology, because it's not like we need another technology tool, right? Like I think most people have 8 to 10 tools in their technology stack. Of those, probably you're using about 20% of the capabilities, which is so frustrating, a whole different conversation. But it's also just that mental model of having to build up that recipe base, or doing things that are out of your comfort zone, which you're already moving a million miles a minute, right? And to be fair, the diagnostic part is the important part. So how do you incorporate meals in an easy way that you're comfortable with, that's providing value to your client? And then also is evolutionary, so it's evolving, right? So then you start thinking about AI and these kind of really interesting things, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool, right? So and those are things that are AI is a little ways off, but there's some really neat things that we'll be able to use AI as complementary to the practitioner. You cannot remove the practitioner from these models, and I believe that no matter how hard they try, I actually think that's the wrong approach. I think the approach that's going to be most successful to actually having an impact on the world is empowering practitioners to meet with more people, right? Moving to that hybrid, moving to that group model, touching more people, and then from that group, finding the folks that really want to engage at that next level, right? Like I think that's how, and artificial intelligence and all these things are going to support the practitioner. The human will always be very, very important, especially with these things that are very, very sensitive and very intimate, right? Like a lot of the stuff is very intimate to your client. So just punching things into a computer, they've been trying for 20 years to do that. And it's not the assisted model, I think, is the right approach.
Yeah. So AI isn't the ultimate. It's more of a complement, right?
It is. It's very, very, very difficult stuff. I have another graduate degree in AI management and data science management, and it's very, very difficult to do with food.
Yeah,
it's too personal, right? Human beings it's just too personal. So it can complement and support, but it will never replace the intuition or the emotional connection that you get with a practitioner, right? Which I think is actually a really big deal. I think if you're being someone that struggled with food and knowing other folks who struggle with food, it can be embarrassing. It's very sensitive, very personal. You need to get comfortable with people as you move forward, which again, why relationship building is very important in our industry, I think.